Finding bottlenecks with cumulative flow diagram or CFD. CFDs also help in finding the bottlenecks. This we already know. To understand, let us change the previous cumulative flow diagram as we saw in the previous video a bit, which is shown in the below figure. So here too we have 4 workflow state: backlog, dev, test and production. And in this x-axis we have the time, that is in day 1, day 2, day 3 and so on. On the y-axis we have the work items. I have a highlighted area here. Between day 10 and day 11 there has been a drop in development. Let us analyze. So in the previous diagram, let us analyze what happened between day 10 and day 11. Here the backlog items are getting added. Because additional backlog items are getting added, there is a widening of area, that is the blue colored one. However, below that, that is below the backlog, we see dev items, orange colored ones are not moving. That is, it has become a narrowing area. On the other hand, test and production items are again moving well, but we have almost no movement in dev. That is, issues or bottleneck is in development. So what it is saying is the backlog items, this is backlog, blue colored one, between day 10 and day 11 there has been additions. Test items are also moving properly, production items are moving, but development is not moving between day 10 and day 11. That means there is a bottleneck or issue in development or this workflow state of dev, the orange colored one. Some practitioners say you have to look at the widening area, that is the backlog, and it drives the next flow state, development or downstream process. So we have, as you can see, first is backlog. I'm just putting backlog, then you have development, then you have test, and after that we have production. So this is the upstream process, then the downstream. Again, this is the upstream, this is the downstream, upstream, and this is the downstream. So development is the downstream of the backlog. So some practitioners say you have to just look the widening area, and just below that, area below the widening area will represent the bottleneck. So this is the widening area, that is the backlog, and just below that we have the dev, and that area or that workflow state will inform about the bottleneck. While it is true for some of the time, it is not always true. Let us see how. Let us say the backlog items remain as they are in day 10 and day 11. So here we are on day 10 and day 11, and because the backlog items are not getting added, it is parallel to the time axis. As you can see, the shape of the curve is parallel. But the test happened rapidly. So test has happened rapidly, and that is why we have a peak in test. Here is the upstream flow, that is backlog. Is it impacting the downstream flow, that is development? No. Or rather, the downstream test is moving fast, but we just don't have enough development being done, and that's why there is a bulge. So in this case, just by looking at the widening area, and if I look at the widening area and take the state or the workflow state below that, which is production, then I'll be getting my analysis and final interpretation wrong. So how to find out the bottleneck? Analyze the cumulative flow diagram. Most of the time, if it is a widening area, just below the widening area there will be a bottleneck, but it is not always true. So have a look at the diagram and find out what actually is the bottleneck.